welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be talking about the upcoming severe weather event and many other upcoming events for the United States of America. We're going to be starting with the severe weather event, which we're not going to look at models for to save time, and it's not as urgent to look at models since it's closer. But then we're going to look at many farther out events, ranging of various different weather types, which we will look at models for. I didn't really have a problem yesterday, and I believe it wasn't really a problem for you guys either yesterday of me turning around here and looking there, but I'm going to hold it today to make it more convenient and look better for me and you. And I thought it was a problem yesterday. I don't think it was. Anyway, please like and subscribe if you haven't. I hope you guys enjoy this video. Sorry for that long intro there. I just want to explain things, give a little thesis of what this video is going to be about. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. So we have a severe risk for tomorrow. Day one, it's just some thunderstorms around the west and central United States, Texas, Oklahoma, and for much of the outer west. I believe you guys can see the graphics and text, especially graphics, still on this, but just in case I'm going to explain it. Though I believe you guys can see text and especially graphics on this, but I will explain it just in case, like I always do. And anyway, moving on, tomorrow we have a slight risk. And this slight risk kind of looks like a line here. You see for Louisiana, parts of Texas, a lot of Mississippi, Tennessee, a little bit of Kentucky, a little bit of Missouri. And the marginal risk extends all the way to around Indiana. So Memphis, Jackson, Lake Charles, places like that are in the slight risk. Houston, Nashville, Louisville are in places like the marginal risk. If we look at the tornado risk here, we see there is a 5% risk and a larger 2% risk. Sorry, there's a little delay lag here from when I move it on here to when it shows up on here. But anyway, this orange, which it looks like yellow on there for me. I don't know if it does for you guys, but anyway, it's kind of different when I record a bit. But anyway, moving on. We have a 5% there. I hope that's better. And it's kind of there's a 2% there. Sorry about that. And it quickly transitions to a 5% tornado risk. So as this line progresses, the tornado threat will gain strength, and there will be a higher tornado threat, is what I mean. And then it will then go up back to a 2% tornado risk, which is this green, which is still kind of bad. And you still have to watch out for tornadoes there. There was a wedge tornado the other day in Iowa, even with a 2% tornado risk. So yeah, even if it's not wedge, tornadoes are very bad. And tornado is going to be like the secondary threat. The main threat is going to be this 15% risk here. And Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, if I didn't already say that, I think I did though. And then Missouri, Kentucky. And then this 5% risk is extending much farther. And basically, it kind of moved like a line. We could have many straight line damaging winds. And then if we look at the hail risk, this is the least probable risk. There's just a large 5% here. We can see, and it's only for part of the risk. We see like the wind risk extends much farther, as the overall risk here is going to be into eastern Texas. And so yeah. Then we have a small marginal risk tomorrow for Montgomery, Columbus, Auburn, Gadsden, and Phoenix City. And all of those cities are in Alabama except for Columbus, which is in Georgia. So if we zoom in on this marginal risk here, we see that it's not that big. Wind is probably still going to be the main threat, but I don't think there will be a hail threat. But I think tornadoes, there will be a 2% risk. And if we look at the discussion here, we see it really only mentions damaging wind gust at the top here under summary. But I do think we could definitely see some tornadoes. But we will have to see with that. And if we look at the CIPS probabilities, something we use. CSU probabilities I was going to use too, but those are sometimes not available, and they were not available. And I wanted to get this video in quick, just in case I can't later. But anyway. For day 2, we have a large risk here. Now, CIPS probabilities do not align with Storm Prediction Center probabilities on categorical risk. This goes up to 90%. But for tornado, wind, and hail risk, they align for the most part. So we see a 30%, which is not a 30% for the Storm Prediction Center. This is not saying an enhanced risk. But for Louisiana, basically the Arla-Tex region where Arkansas, Texas, and Louisiana meet up kind of. And it goes a little bit into Mississippi. This 10 to 30, the 15 to 30% area, sorry, goes much wider, well into Oklahoma, Texas, a little bit into Kansas and Missouri, and into Mississippi, etc. And then 10%, it's a little farther, goes a little bit into Alabama. If we look at the day 3, we see the risk goes a little bit into the Florida Panhandle, much of Georgia, a little bit of South Carolina, a little bit of Alabama. 10% goes to the Florida Panhandle coast up to the very tip of Georgia, into parts of South Carolina, and a little bit of Alabama, even more. Hopefully my hand isn't blocking everything, but yeah. Sorry for any times I mess up on speaking. When I look both ways, it kind of sometimes messes up a bit. I mess up a bit when I look at 2 screens at the same time. So sorry about that, but a little bit of a 10% risk here. Now, here's the problem with this. It's a very small risk, so it's kind of unlikely to happen, if I'm going to be real with you guys. So I wouldn't worry about this too much, but there is a chance. It's more strong storms than severe. Then we have these two 15% risk areas, 15 to 30%, and that is another severe risk on day 6. So this 10% was day 5. This risk here was tomorrow, and this risk here was day 3. So kind of like that marginal risk. And going back here, we have these two 15% areas and a larger 10% area. So, yeah, we'll have to watch out for that. And then day 7, there's nothing. Day 8, we do see a little bit of a 10% risk. Wouldn't worry about that too much. Now, if we go to wind, we're going to see a large area for wind here, 15%. So, like, they're showing a large slight area risk. Same with day 3, where that marginal risk is. Day 5, they don't show the little 10%. They don't show wind risk. They show a large 10% wind risk, which isn't an SPC probability. It's in between marginal and slight for parts of the Florida Panhandle, Georgia, Alabama, and Mississippi. And day 7 and 8, there's nothing. Hail, they show a large 15% hail risk for tomorrow's risk, and there's no hail straight off after that. And then they show a 10%, 5%, and 2% tornado risk. Tomorrow, that might be a little bit pushing it, as tornadoes is a secondary threat. A small 2% tornado risk tomorrow, and a small, on day 3, and a small 2% tornado risk on day 6. Now, finally, we are going to go to the past severe weather, into the potential Arctic blast in the long range. That won't affect a wide variety of people, but it will affect some people up in the north. But it will be still strong. And then we can look up at another upcoming severe weather event. And I was going to cover a snowstorm, but it seems pretty much dissipated, not really shown in the models anymore, so not really to cover there. And a heavy rain event. Flooding event too. So that's just a little thing of what's going to be passed on this point on this video. So we're going to have to go to the long range. We see that around the 27th, we're seeing negative 32 and 39 degrees below average, and a widespread 10 and 20 degree below average area here. So basically what we could be seeing is a widespread of this region being in the 1s below average, but also a widespread area of this region being in the 10s below average, 20s below average, and 30s below average. We see this wide area, this dark blue of 10s. Yep, I'll show you the key here. This darker blue is these negative 10s, and then the lighter blues are in the 1s below average. But then in these purples and pinks, we have these areas in the 30s and 20s below average. So we will have to watch for that. And let me find it. 2 a.m. to AGL temperature. So if we go to around the 27th, the GFS, which this is outside of the ECMWF and CMC range, so take this with a grain of salt. Well, I'll go to them because it's a little bit in the range, but not as far as GFS. But we see a negative in the -10s and -1s here. So we could see like -18, -9. So these -1s and -10s in temperatures, we'll have to watch out. And some runs are even showing -20s. Yeah, and we see this risk going into around northern Wisconsin, widespread -10s. Now, even wider spread -1s and -20s in some spots like northern Wisconsin. If we go to the ECMWF, they're not really showing. This is ECMWF high resolution, and we are going to go to 12. It's already there. So we are just going to quickly go to 2 a.m. temperature. Sorry, now I'm looking up, but yeah, we're seeing widespread -1s and -10s even. So we're gonna have to watch out for this Arctic blast. So temperatures of widespread in the -1s and -10s, and even some spots in the -20s. We're gonna have to watch out for. And just a little bonus, we're gonna look at the GDPS for a second. We're not gonna look at the temperature anomaly because save time. But based on similar temperatures shown in GFS and ECMWF, sorry about that, we can assume that they're similar temperature anomalies. CMC shows a much wider spread, cold Arctic blast. Now, it's not as strong, but we're still seeing widespread -1s and -10s, but even wider spread 20s and 10s. And we see, like for example, in the south, widespread 20s, 30s, 40s in Central Florida, 20s in Texas. So they're showing a much wider spread Arctic blast there. Now we're going to go back to the GFS model, and we are going to go to, let me find this, precipitation type / rate. So, ECMWF and CMC are not really showing anything for this, so we're only going to be looking at the GFS. And because they're not really showing anything, that's a reminder to take this with a grain of salt. This is still far out. Models have not gained consistency still, but we'll have to watch out. So, we have a little bit of a snowstorm here. I said I wasn't going to cover that, but I will now because they're now showing it again, which I did not expect. But we see this, I'm just going to put this down for a second like I just did, a kind of cold front here with snow in the north and heavy rain, widespread heavy rain. But we can see these are kind of split up into cells. So we can see like, it's hard to tell if there's cells here, but we can see kind of cells that look like of heavy rain. So this could lead to flooding and just widespread heavy rain and moderate rain. Which are moderate rain is those dark greens to yellows to dark oranges are those heavy rain. So widespread moderate and heavy rain both are like heavier than the average rain, and we could see flooding in these areas depending on if they're on a drought or not. Then we have these very heavy snow up here, and this is around the 25th. So we're just gonna scroll up here, and then the snow and rain. We're still having heavy rain and moderate rain here. So, yeah, still a line of heavy rain. So, a lot of these areas are going to look at heavy rain and flooding, not just moderate rain, heavy rain. So, that's going to be the main threat here, down here, because the severe weather start will have kind of dissipated. So, yeah, while heavy rain and flooding is going along here potentially, we see the heavy rain along with yellow and oranges and the moderate rain surrounding it. We see very heavy snow. We see heavy snow up here, these dark blues, moderate snow surrounding that, and up into New Jersey. Now, if we look at the, we're just going to look for this. Found it. We're going to look at the 500 MB vorticity. We're not going to look at 700 or 850 MB because vorticity is not as important. Not really important. But for 500 MB, it can kind of show you the strength of the system overall. Not really just severe weather. But yeah. We see that for the 25th, we see the system will have very strong vorticity, a very strong center here, and out in front of the line, we're seeing vorticities of 30, 40, and 55. So, yeah, we're going to have to watch out for that along this line, 40s and 50s. So, it's signifying a strong system, basically. And if we go ahead, we could see kind of a cellular line going into, we see more of a linear line here, but a cellular line here could create tornadoes. It's a little too early to say significant or not, or even if this will happen. Like I said, take this with a grain of salt, but it is something to watch. If we look at this 500 MB winds, we're going to look at the trough, see if there's a trough, of course. That is a very important thing. And then after we look at the severe weather ingredients with GFS, and again, it's really the only model showing this winter storm and, well, severe weather. Then, so it's the only model showing the severe weather. So we'll finish up severe weather parameters with GFS. Then we'll look at their snow totals, and then we'll look at the other model's snow totals, and then that will wrap up the video. But 25th, we see a strong trough here. We see clear circulation, and then we see up to around 90 to 100 knots ahead of the line, which is something to watch for. 850 MB winds, which can help with tornadoes and damaging winds. We're going to wait for this to load. Okay, that should be enough. So we're just going to go to the 25th here. And we see the wind out ahead. I wasn't showing 500 MB winds for this area because we already saw this trough is strong. But for 850 MB winds, we do see high winds, 90 to 100 knots in this area, which could signal a good tornado potential. If we go to Cape, most unstable Cape, we're going to look at. Lapse rates aren't very important because this isn't really going to be a hail situation. And they're not very high, I looked at earlier, so we're not going to waste our time with that. But stay prepared either way. We see a Cape of 500 to 1,000 in the most unstable Cape. So you have 500 up to 1,000 in these areas. But what matters is there is Cape present, no matter how high. While it's good with higher Cape, the fact that Cape is present is important. And we're just going to wait for this to load. Okay. And for the 25th, regular Cape, which is not very unstable, but we see 500 to 1,000 closer to the coast. This could increase the Panhandle, Central and Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama potential for severe weather along the Gulf Coast. I did not mean to click on the sounding. The soundings are, I looked at them earlier, but since soundings will take a little bit longer to explain, we're not going to look at them in this video. Finally, we're going to look at bulk shear. Supercell composite we'll also look at, but that's really it for the severe weather. So we see currently the bulk shear, there's around 50 to 70 knots. Now, while this can be a lot for severe weather, there is not currently other ingredients present, so it's not really a worry. Now, if we go to the 25th, we see that bulk shear 500 MB. We see 90 to 100 knot bulk shear on this northern side. So since most of the bulk shear is up Mississippi, Arkansas, Tennessee, and Louisiana, there could be a strong severe weather here, 80 to 100 knot bulk shear. So that's something to watch out for. And finally, supercell composite. Again, I'm not going to look at these photographs. Those take a little longer to explain and look at, and we want to keep this video short. But we looked at them earlier, me and my friends, and they are decent enough for severe weather potential. Again, take this with a grain of salt. But yeah, we have 5 to 10 knot of supercell composite, well, 5 to 10 supercell composite, which is okay, but it's not as important of a factor. And finally, if we go to the winter weather, we're only going to look at total snowfall Kachira, because ice isn't really going to be much of a threat. Ice has been on and off, and it would be probably premature to show you ice here when it's really far out, because that's really hard to predict. And the ice has been on and off in the models along with freezing rain. So yeah, we see for the 25th, we see around widespread amounts of 6 to 10 and 8 inches shown again. We're only going to show you one ratio because this is the more accurate ratio. And there would be no reason to show you the least accurate ratio, if that makes sense to you guys. Because Kuchera, like I said, takes in temperature into account. We see the European model shows a way more Norse system. We see amounts of up to a foot. We see snow totals coming in at around even some places up to 36 inches. And if we want to look at the precipitation rate on that, I'll show you here. We see how they are showing the system way more south with widespread heavy rain, but then the system kind of comes up north, kind of forms a northeaster type system and gives heavy rain off the coast, and strong snow there, well, high snow amounts, and heavy rain too much here. We see this heavy rain is like these yellows and oranges and stuff around that. So yeah, this heavy rain. So again, flooding is possible if you're in a drought. And finally, we're going to look at GDPS since we already looked at the snow for ECMWF. Rain totals, a little too far out. Rain totals have been shifting from 1 inch to 5 inches. That's really going to depend on the speed of the system. And since these systems are being shown in very different places, the speed of the system is going to affect the rain totals a lot. So it's a little too early to show you rain totals, as that's showing you a lot. Snow has been in a fairly consistent place, so it's pretty okay to show you the totals for that. Now we see heavy rain again, and then snow on the north side of the system in the Pennsylvania and Ohio northeast general area. And if we look at we're going to look at the total Kuchera snowfall here. That we see they show snow totals widespread of up to 4 to 6 inches, 4 to 8 inches widespread. So widespread 6 inches you see here with isolated places up to 12 inches. And we see snow totals here come up to potentially 2 feet. So yeah. Anyway, guys, that is pretty much it for the video. Yeah, like I said, we're not going to show temperature anomaly because, like I said, they're pretty similar as temperatures for the median of the models. So for CMC and ECMWF, because they're pretty similar to temperature anomalies with the GFS, there's no need to show them. And what I mean is, because they were showing pretty similar temperatures, temperature anomalies will likely be similar too, if that makes sense. So, yeah. Again, did not mean to do that. Anyway, that's it for the video, guys. Basically, the rundown of this video is severe weather in the south can cause tornadoes and damaging winds as the main threat and a small hail threat. Then an Arctic blast will come down and affect the northern plains and parts of the Midwest, creating 20 to 40 below average temps, we can assume, by ECMWF and CMC or GDPS, and indefinitely for the GFS, so for sure. And then that would cause temperatures widespread of the -1s, and then which is basically -1 to 9. So yeah, the widespread -1s, as well as widespread -10s, and even some places -20s. So either way, there could be widespread -1s of temperatures and even wider spread 10s and 20s down to the south. But -10s and -20s are a little more uncertain. Well, I'll keep you updated on that. And then finally, we'll have a system that can come through that will cause heavy rain for the southeast and potentially a big snowstorm for the Midwest or the Northeast, and even ECMWF shows a northeaster that brings heavy rain and potentially flooding along the southeast and heavy snow along the northeast coast. So yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. Sorry for any mistakes or explanations. I just want to make sure you guys know what's going on. And any times I was unclear, I hope I made it clear afterward. So yeah, sorry about that. Anyway, I hope everybody has a great night. Have a great day. Goodbye, guys.